Alma once had a friend, a writer, who for years before she died, relatively young, was always talking about this one story she had to write down. Over the course of their 30-plus-year friendship, Alma's friend became quite famous, winning major prizes, garnering important interviews, awards left and right. A TV movie based on one of her novels was in the works with well-known names even Alma, not a big Hollywood person, had heard of. And yet her friend dismissed these achievements as incidentals. The real deal was this one story that would not be hurried. The story possessed her. She could reel off its characters, complete with their names and histories. Periodically, they compelled her to go to one or another part of the world. A gravesite in Sweden, a fishing village in Liberia, the outer islands off South Carolina, where she bought a house and lived for a spell. These characters had secrets she was listening for, and the reception was better in some places than others. Their voices would break through until she'd lose the connection and it was time to move on to some other place. Alma had stopped counting her friends' many addresses, switching to pencil in her address book. A migrant storyteller, to be sure, Alma told her. Her writer friend liked that description, and from then on, she used it for interviews and at readings, insisting she was not a writer or a novelist, but a migrant storyteller. Alma wasn't so sure it was a great thing for her friend to be so rootless. A writer needs to be grounded, or the force that through the green fuse drives the flower is going to incinerate it. But instead of pointing this out, Alma held back, celebrating her friend's lilies-of-the-fields attitude. Her friend could be fierce, bristling at the slightest hint of criticism. In one incident, and Alma was at the reading to verify it, a woman during the Q&A mentioned the difficulty of understanding some of the dialogue. Did the writer ever worry about her audience? Alma's friend leveled one of those if looks could kill looks at the woman. "I'm not writing for white people," she said straight out. This before people were saying such things, except for Toni Morrison. One of the protagonists in the unwritten story was a likable white guy from Sweden, thus the trip to Sweden, a sailor with ropey arms like the rigging of a ship. Christian, whose name changed over time, Christopher, Anders, Niels, falls in love with the enslaved female protagonist, Cleo. Her name did not change over the many years her friend talked about the book. Alma sometimes wondered if her friend had befriended her in part to find out more about white people. If so, Alma was not the best choice. She wasn't 100% Caucasian, if such a critter even existed.